All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Junior Ibarra, and today we're back at it with the Des Moines Metro Market update from Team IRG for June 2020, or 2020, 2024.
Living in the past.
Living in the past. We're going looking forward to the future. And then there's some interesting data to talk about today. So can't wait to share that with you. And alongside me, we also have
I'm Ryan Coy, Director of Operations for Team IRG. And you have?
I'm Anthony Simon. I am one of the amazing agents with Team IRG.
hey.
So we're just gonna kind of jump right into these stats. And again, as a uh, prerequisite to this, these numbers are for a 14.5 mile radius around kind of the geographic center of Des Moines, looking at residential properties only. So basically, yeah, the couple caveats there. But median sale price, jumping right in. So the trend is kind of continuing. We are staying
Wow.
pretty consistently above 2023 numbers, right, hovering right around 6.5% higher than we were last year, pretty consistently. So up to 338 median sale price this last June. Um, Not a little bit higher than what we'd like. We'd like it to be closer to 3 or 4% to be steady, but um, still growth in the right direction.
Basically back in the 2019, 2020 era, right?
Yep.
Yeah,
So
that's
business as usual.
yeah, it's interesting. I mean, last year if you look at the light blue compared to the yellow, it was only 3%. And we were predicting 3 to 4% this year. So we were wrong if this stays true. Just to call it out, we weren't expecting a 6% increase in price point for the Metro. So that's interesting. And I know one of the reasons for that is just inventory continues to be an issue, right? And although we will see what those numbers are going to say here shortly, yet, everything is hyper local. So yeah, you hear social media, prices are going to crash and this and that. And it all is just depending on your local market, right? So we never saw that really, we never thought that that would happen here, and it hasn't, just because of the demand is still there and inventory it continues to be an issue. Units sold is still down, like it's really low compared to years prior. Yet again, because there's not a lot of inventory, right? So that's keeping pricing up and units sold kind of lower with there not being as much inventory as we've seen in years prior. So interesting to see that 6%. That's good for all the homeowners out there. Hey, let's go equity.
Build an equity. All right, days on market. We have been flat for 3 months at 7 days on market, which is a heck of a lot better than 2 days on market like we've had some of the previous summers recently. So I will take it. It's still not quite back to what is considered normal, kind of around that 2 week mark for the summer here in Des Moines. For the again in the last how many years, but 7 days is 3 times as much as we had 2 years ago, 3 years ago.
Yeah, so a little bit of a jump, but like you said, pre-COVID, the orange and the royal blue there were typically above what, like 50, around 15 days. So we're still half of that pre-COVID numbers, and yet still good to see it come up a little bit, and then we'll naturally see the seasonality start. It looks like typically in August for those to come up a little bit. Yet real estate never hits zero as far as units sold, and even we even saw experience that through COVID, right? The houses still sell, buyers are still buying, and the Des Moines Metro is a very strong market for just real estate as a whole, honestly. So 7 days. So things are, and Anthony, I guess you as an agent, how have you seen that just like as you're showing clients? What kind of what's the storytelling aspect of that of what's happening?
Yeah, I think. I mean, personally or anecdotally, I think I've been seeing a lot of buyers just be a little bit more picky, but everything has. I mean, I'm tracking right around 7 days. I think in my mind everything's been about a week. Everything sits about a week if it's priced appropriately and there's no major issues with it, and it's priced appropriately for its condition. Um, Some stuff has been moving a little bit faster. Some stuff sits a little bit longer, but it's typically right around that 1 week mark is what I've seen. Which pulling these numbers again today, I was like, yeah, that's exactly what I thought.
Yeah. Okay. Well, interesting to see how it'll change here in the coming months.
All right, jumping into number of houses sold. So this one is a little bit of kind of an eyebrow raiser here. So June is usually the peak here for Des Moines, and and we had less than we did in May, which is kind of surprising,
Yeah.
especially since we're still seeing house prices trend upward at that steady rate. So to see less sold, yeah, is kind of not what I was expecting. Pulling these numbers together.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on that, Ryan?
I don't know.
Hey, it's
Honestly, I
okay
know.
to say that.
Yeah, it's weird. I was telling Anthony like this is the in the past 5 years, it's not been peaking in June. So, whether like Anthony said, like buyers are being more picky, or do we have a heat wave? Did something keep us from selling houses in June? And just I don't know. What are you guys' thoughts?
Yeah, so to
Um,
me, I guess it's a little bit interesting to see that last year in the light blue, we saw a dip that we hadn't seen in years prior, right? And we saw that dip in April, and then it came back up. So now that shifted over to June, like we saw a dip that we don't typically see. So I wonder if we're going to see an uptick in July. No idea, right? Yeah, it is interesting to kind of see that number come down, especially June typically is the highest units sold in during the calendar months. And so that's an interesting, I don't know, like there's a lot of things happening economically, and this is me just kind of trying to explain it, right? Whether it's right or wrong, I don't know. But ultimately, like, I mean, there's interest rates are still staying, like everyone's been waiting for them to come down and they're just not, right? Like that's one thing that hasn't. They do predict now with the GDP falling, right? Unemployment increasing. And they're predicting essentially one of those drops to come around September, if I'm not mistaken. And so whether that helps and do a not typical a bump in September if that actually happens. Yet also the other part that's happening right now as we get closer and closer is the election year, right? And so it'd be curious to know like, what if that's affecting, obviously we're all like, what's going to happen with the biggest transfer of power in the whole world, right? And maybe some people just maybe being a little extra cautious before making a decision, right? So what we did see that's new, and at least it's worth mentioning out there, there's a couple new products out there that some of our lender partners have access to, where the interest rate, if you qualify, you can get as low as is it 4.1 or kind of 4.2, somewhere around that world.
mhm.
We'll post the link after we post the video if you have more interest in that. And so that's kind of new, and that just started what, like a week ago or 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And the funds are only there until they're gone. For that, they essentially bought a group of loans, from my understanding, to be able to offer that rate. And so as long as you qualify, that might be a good opportune time, because that's like over 2% lower than what the market is doing right now. So that could increase your buying power big time if you're like kind of on that border of like, do I like this house or do I not? But I like maybe the next price bracket up, or the fact that it's just a better monthly payment for you at the price you're already at, right? So, or refi, right? For
Yeah,
those of you that,
refi.
if you bought within the last year, like 12 to 18 months, under 18 months, like you could probably save yourself quite. We have even one of our own agent partners that's on the team that bought a house within the last 12 months that just refied and saved herself over $300 per month on her monthly mortgage. So feel free to reach out to Anthony or myself or Ryan on any of those questions, or anyone on the team if you go to our website, or call that number at the end if you have any interest in that. So I just did want to point that out. So all that to say is this is a very interesting number. And why did
Yes.
it do this? I'm not quite fully sure, and it'll be
Travel
interesting.
sports. I think it's travel sports. People are
Travel
too busy with
sports.
travel sports with their kids. I think that's what it is.
There's a lot of people going on vacations this summer, at least in
True.
my realm or my sphere. So I don't know if everybody just took vacations and stopped buying houses for a month there, or what's going on.
So if you stack
Um,
all of that stuff we just talked
yeah.
about, maybe that's why, right?
It's
So
multifaceted problem, I think. Yeah.
yet still
But
a good number, a very good number,
Yeah.
704. Yep. So
yeah, I mean, real estate's still trucking along here in June. Now, what is interesting is looking at year-to-date totals then and how that compares.
oh yeah.
We're we're 98% of last year, so we've held really steady on year-to-date. Halfway through the year here into June, even with that weird little dip. That's almost 200 houses. So you add 200 houses to this, and we would have had a better year than last year.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, so things are moving for this year. I mean, obviously prices coming up, but yeah, it's interesting to see how all this kind of plays together.
And to add to that, I guess we that was the prediction that I think we all had and we've heard was that the units sold of last year going into this year was going to essentially be flat. So when you say we're 98% of that, it's tracking, right? And when we talk about the shift in real estate, and in this case, it wasn't pricing, it was inventory, right? And units sold because we have the lowest, if I believe last year, at least from the country, I remember the statistics in one of the masterminds I was in, but it was the lowest number of units sold nationally since 1996. It was even lower than the shift in 2008 as far as units sold.
I think significantly lower than 2008.
Yep. And so same here with our metro. If you look at even 2021 and 2022, right, you're looking at 5,000 year to date, 4,800, and to be at 3,670 compared to those years, where I mean that's 25 to 20, about 25 to 27% less year to date as far as units sold. So that's when you see a market shift of 20 to 30%, that's the shift, right? And that's what we're kind of experiencing as a whole. Yet pricing is staying stable just because what you'll see as far as active listings in the next couple slides. So interesting to see how all of this unravels itself.
New listings. So we're also seeing less houses hit the market. Again, kind of potentially hurting inventory, but we have slightly less buyers. But prices are still going up, so it's just again kind of interesting to see how this tracks. We were holding really steady, kind of more than last year for the first few months of this year, and then in May and now in June we have. I mean, again, just June was less listings, less stuff sold, just less real estate happening by a little bit here in Des Moines than what is typical or what we saw last year.
Yeah. So with less listings and less inventory hitting the market, that also affects the buy side transactions, right? Which is probably another layer to that. And so, again, interesting. Why is that? We should ask a little bit more as to why people are, wanting to wait a little bit longer to list their properties and add a story to that outside of, our professional predictions or opinions. Again, could it be that because we're getting closer to the election? I don't know. That's that, and people wanting to see how that unravels itself. Maybe that's another layer to that too.
Who knows? Again, anecdotally, I think I had 3 listings who I thought were going to list in May, which then would have ideally closed in June. Uh, Wait, and now we're just getting listed like this week or this month. Um, so I mean, I've had a couple that got pushed. So again, it's not super surprising. Be like, oh yeah, everybody's just being a little bit slower. It seems, and from my experience, just on the buy side and on the listing side.
Yeah.
However, active listing, so kind of what our inventory is looking like, we are actually recovering even with new listings kind of being down a little bit. We are actually recovering, and I think a big part of that is resale houses have once again kind of taken over new construction. So we are seeing more resale houses hit the market than new construction, and that has not been the case I think for most of last year and for part of this year, I think new construction always had the edge. So not that new construction is really slowing down, but we are just seeing people get out there and actually list their house and make that move, that next move.
Yeah, and that's good. Actually, this is really good news for us to see inventory decline. It just balances out the market a little bit better for both buyers and sellers. Yet, if I do the math real quick, so if I take 1952 divided by, oops, 1952 divided by, say, pre-COVID, which is the royal blue, uh, puts us maybe at around what, 3,700. So divided by 3,600, about 54% of what pre-COVID active listings are during this time. So still quite a bit lower than the pre-COVID years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
What are your thoughts, Ryan? What's happening here in Des Moines?
I don't know. It's like the same thing, right? Like, what can we attribute this to? And I think it is that, I think there's a lot of stuff happening. We're analyzing the economy. Everyone's trying to like think about what's going to happen. You have inflation, costs of stuff, like all this stuff is like compiling together and outputting this. And I feel like it's not necessarily maybe one reason. It's just all those things mixed together that's producing this outcome.
yeah, and if you want to add more complexity to it, right? Like, I mean, it's been trending on social media and in the news, like just in like the what what we spend at the grocery store is what I was trying to spit out, right? Like the cost of what things like what Ryan, what you just said, like I think a lot of us are feeling that, right? Like what we used to spend in groceries last year and compared to this year is totally different, right? And so maybe just getting kind of attributed or kind of getting used to that is maybe another layer to this. And prices aren't going down. That's one thing I'm seeing, I guess, just if you look, if I'm just driving around as we look at real estate, I see builders also shifting a little bit. And I don't know if you agree with this, Anthony, because you see probably more houses a week than I do. Yet I have, because I'm in that development world, I'm noticing the shift in like smaller houses, like in going from 3-car garages to 2-car garages to hit like that more entry level price point, or just not just general entry level, but just affordable price point, with pricing not going down, and interest rates staying where they're at. So we're seeing that, and we're seeing more townhome units or buy attached homes, where you would have
Mm-hmm.
seen maybe on one lot you would have seen a single family home. Now we're noticing buy attached homes, right? In order to go, instead of always hitting that mid 300 range, trying to hit that lower 300 range or even high 200s for some of this new construction stuff. So maybe that's why we're seeing a little bit of a pivot with new construction and listings as they pivot to new types of products
Products.
that, yeah, that maybe cater to more people, that they can hit those monthly payments in that affordability range.
Yeah, I mean, I 100% agree. I mean, there are still those big expensive houses being built. However, it felt like when interest rates were low, it felt like that's all new construction was 3-car garage, 2,000 plus square footage, square feet houses, and I mean they're just big expensive houses. And then interest rates went up and nobody wanted to or could afford that. So now last year I think we started to see it a little bit where some builders were starting to shift, but I definitely think it is the norm now this year, like you said, that we are seeing 2-car garages instead of 3 is the norm, slightly smaller footprints, and more infill new construction than I've seen since I've been in real estate in Des Moines. I think there's more infill new construction too, just in the city proper. So yeah, it is interesting seeing how everything just, I mean, everything kind of plays together and what everybody's doing because of it.
Yeah, and I know there's a maybe a slide we can pull in the future, but like I know one of the reasons we hit on kind of these price brackets a little bit more than say, above 500 is because in our metro area, what we've seen in the past is 80% of all the transactions are below 400,000, right? And so we talk a little bit more about that. We do see a lot of and help a lot of our clients that are in that move up stage, whether it's their second to third home or third to fourth. And what we, at least what I am seeing in there, is that there's a lot of equity, right? If you go back to like the increase in sale price slide, Anthony, is like if you add all those up, like how much is that? So 6, 12, 23, 38, 41, and then with another essentially 6% increase. That's a lot of equity, right? So even though that's where we're noticing the move up buyers make a decision to decide and list, because again, like whether the family grew or the kids are off to college and they need a smaller house now instead of that big house, they have enough equity to put themselves in a positive cash flow position to whether they put that a larger down payment down on the next house or they use some of that cash to pay off certain debt, right? That has higher interest rates than houses, say like a car or credit card debt or furniture debt, and they still come out positive from a cash flow month to month perspective to where it makes sense to sell and move up or move down or unilateral because of location or whatever, because of a school district or whatnot, you know. So we are seeing that actually a little bit more than last year, in my professional opinion, where those transactions are happening. And a lot of them right now doing it because they want to be locked into their school districts before that time frame comes too, right? And so one of the areas where I see a seller's market that we work in that is above like what the metro market shows and is above like 500,000 is a lot. I see a lot. Well, I only know this. I can speak to this because I was looking at the data and we're doing some transactions in that area. Is over in the Waukee School District, right? If I went hyper local, that seems to be still a seller's market and above the 500,000 range, which
Hmm.
is a little bit different than what the metro market numbers are showing. So, all that saying is there's a lot of equity and maybe to finish this off, Anthony, is if everything is the information that you're seeking, right? So, what is it the information that you want? That's our role as a team, is to empower you with information so that you can make an informative decision. So whether it is to wait a little bit longer or whether it's to take the next step forward or to take action now, that's all we want to do is as your real estate advisors is give you all of the information you're seeking because it's different for everyone and it's definitely different for, you know, Pleasant Hill versus Waukee or No Rock versus Ankeny, and it's all hyper local. It could literally be a couple streets away, and it could be different just because of where your house sits, so or where you want to buy. So let us know how we can help. Any other last comments or questions from y'all?
No, we'll see. So 6 months in the bag for 2024. We'll
Yeah.
and officially into July. So we'll see how the second half this year plays out. It's an election year. They're expecting a rate drop in the fall potentially. We'll see, and we'll
Yeah.
just see how this year kind of finishes out. It could be another crazy interesting fall and winter.
Yes, there's no such thing as a dull moment in real estate. There's always something happening, and that's what keeps us on our toes. And that's why we're here to serve our communities and all the people that we interact with. And we thank you, everyone who continues to watch us and and reach out to us to put us to work. So thank you for that opportunity. We'll catch you on the next one. Aminals, let's go.